I can't hear you. I still can't hear you. Well, that's pretty great, but we are here to talk about the 2023 horror movie Talk to Me. It's an Australian movie that came out at, I believe it originally started on the festival circuit, built up a lot of hype, and then eventually came to theaters. And boy, there was a lot of people really excited about this one. I believe it's an A24 film.
I'd have to check. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I know exactly what it was. There's a thing called an on and off switch. You should check those before you start. I guess I touched them at the last minute. What's up, everybody? Sorry about that weird silent intro. My name is Kyle Smith. I'm back with Adam on his channel on the MN Viking Zombie YouTube and Twitch channel. It's almost that time for spooky season, and I'm really excited that we got to do the it says on IMDb 2022. Maybe that's when it originally came out.
Yeah, I believe it started on the indie film circuit in 2022.
Oh, it's crazy because we're almost 10 months into 2023, and it's still in the theaters here. I'm not sure if it just re-popped up because of Halloween being close by, but I thought I saw previews for this earlier in the year, but I digress. I'm excited to talk about this movie. I kind of presented it to Adam, hoping he would say yes, and he did. I know traditionally this probably isn't your favorite era, genre, neighborhood of horror, but
no, I'm not too big into the ghost possession stuff, so it's a tough one for me. But still, I mean, I can't resist doing one of these shows to talk about a horror flick, so why not?
Well, we don't have to do the number scale or anything, but let's change it just slightly different than what we've done before because we haven't done this in a while. But your overall impression going into this movie, knowing that this isn't kind of your thing, like I said, I like to say neighborhood. We are both horror fans of pretty much any subgenre. What was your first impression when you got done with this movie? Did you come away underwhelmed? Was it kind of what you thought? Was it a little better than you expected?
Well, to not give anything away that we're going to talk about here a little bit later, I felt like the hype surrounding this movie was far too big. There was no way it was going to live up to what all the marketing was saying, like this is the scariest movie ever. No, it was not. It had some really intense moments and some cool scenes of violence and gore, but otherwise, I really didn't think it was anything all that special.
That's fair. I was going to ask you about that as well. I remember, I wish that I could have written this down to see when I saw the preview for this. It immediately attracted me in the theater. This is the kind of stuff that really gets to me. I don't know what it is growing up where I was from, whatever, but there's a lot of old wives' tales, a lot of ghost stories, and the possession thing is always, for me, if we get personal on this channel for a little bit, is always the scariest part. Like, I think it started for me watching Pet Sematary. When you go through death and grieving, it's really, really tragic and sad, and there's just something different in the air. And then with possession movies, usually it's someone in the movie that you have either a backstory on, or not only do you have the backstory, but they're related to and involved with another character. And the same thing happens in Talk to Me, where a group of teenagers get together. They have this mannequin hand that was apparently kind of a conduit to another universe. And if you follow the rules that they've somehow figured out in a weird transaction, which is kind of like, I wish there was a little more story to that. But basically the main character in the movie, her name's Mia, a great young actress, is very captivated by this because she wants to have resolution and peace about the death of her mother. And when you bring in someone that you are close to and then you see them in this form, that's the one that always gets me in the horror movies, because I wouldn't want to, you and I both know this, we've lost parents. I wouldn't want to see my parents again in a different form unless it was a positive way. But we know we're not going to get that with a horror movie.
Well, let's dive a little bit into that too, because that is one of the central themes of the movie, is that it follows that stereotypical trope of, family member trying to reach out from beyond the grave, but they do it a little differently. Instead of just, someone grabbing a Ouija board and summoning their dead parent or whatever, instead this was an evil spirit pretending to be her mother.
Correct. And I have to say it on the channel. This is just the typical cliche and stuff. This is a lot of white people shit, and we can say that. For being two white guys. I can see some of my friends from the military and different ethnicities. I'm like, there's not a chance in real life if this was a thing we would ever go near this. I personally wouldn't either. I just find, like I said, I want to go back to my original thing that I want.
You never got the friends together and played with a Ouija board when you were younger?
Absolutely not. No,
I did.
I wanted to, and I thought I was tough enough. Something about summoning demons or evil spirits always got to me. It was like, I don't want to mess with that. For an off chance that it may be correct, I was always the guy that will go. I love to go to locations. I felt a lot of energy in different places where I knew people had been murdered, bad things have happened, abandoned asylums, haunted houses in our area. Like those are fun because you kind of get to create it. But talking directly one-on-one, that you'd never catch me doing that. I don't want any part of that. I will avoid a movie being made about me completely. But I didn't like, and one of the things I want to critique about this movie off the start was I didn't like how simple of a just, and I understand that for time, they probably couldn't give out too much of an in-depth backstory. But apparently this was a mannequin hand shaped like this. You grab it and shake. You say, talk to me, and instantly with a candle burning, you will see a dead person.
Well, it's not instantly. I mean, they did the whole weird, convulsing and whatever, before they're able to communicate with the spirit world, which a lot of those actors did a good job of showing that sort of transformation of crossing their consciousness over to the spirit world.
Mm-hmm.
Because although I again don't believe that any of this could actually happen in any way, shape, or form, sure, I did feel like it was a great way to sort of let viewers know that there is something happening.
That's a good point, man. And on a completely side note, I want to have that mentality later, and maybe I'll get it later in life. I don't know. Maybe some things just aren't for me. I want to come in with this knowing like this is never going to happen. I want to enjoy it for what it is, which I appreciate you doing for this movie because I know it's not at the top of your list. For me, it's like Star Wars, any sci-fi stuff I have a very hard time getting into.
Right. Same.
I don't know. It just isn't for me, but I hope to have that mentality one day. I really appreciate that about you watching this. But yeah, I remember, if I remember correctly, it's, when they say let you in, that's when you're taking over. But immediately when they grab the hand and they say, talk to me, you'll see something. And everyone's got their phone out, which I thought was really funny because that is the world we live in now. If you found something out like this, really, everyone's going to put it and live stream it on stuff. I wish that there was more of an origin story of where it came from. I want to see the evil and witch and the hand that this thing came from. But,
well, there has been a sequel announced, so maybe we will get that in the sequel.
Okay. I know you probably, I would guess. I don't want to assume for you. I would guess probably wouldn't be at the top of your list. I will watch the sequel.
I'm going to watch it. I'm not, excited and waiting with bated breath to watch it, but I'll check out the sequel. I'll see what it's all about.
Nice.
I mean, hopefully it'll be less just, hyped up the way this one was, because I came into this and I know that coming into it, it was going to have to blow my socks off to make me think, okay, this was really good, because I came in expecting great.
Yeah.
And it was good, but it wasn't great. It was one of those movies that if I was looking through streaming channels and I found it and I watched it, I would be like, wow, that was really good. But yeah, with everything surrounding it, it just felt like a little bit of a letdown.
I've had my 6-year-old the last 2 weekends, but I really wanted to go see this. Actually, you're motivating me now. I think I'm going to go see a movie tonight. I've got plenty of time after this. Go to the movies, actually. But I wanted to see this. This is funny. I feel like the roles flipped here. I've left my expectation. When I saw the preview in the theater, I initially had excitement. I was like, oh, that looks like it's going to be scary. That's going to be fun. But because there was such a lapse in time of me seeing it from the first preview to now, my expectations went way down. And I didn't have as much excitement as I did. Obviously, you won't as if it's fresh in the theater. But
you probably didn't have absorbed as much of the hype either as I did.
Probably not. I love, part of the, and this isn't breaking, and I know there's millions of people who feel the same way, but going to the movies, half the fun is seeing what's coming out that you don't know about.
Oh, yeah.
I still don't get on YouTube and I Google movie trailers. Like, I don't do that. I just I let them come naturally, and if it organically finds its way into my algorithm, cool.
Because horror TikTok went wild on this one.
Yeah, I'm sure it would have. It feels like it would have. And the premise is a cool idea. I think the thing that drew me to the movie the most was the idea was something I hadn't specifically seen before. Now, you and I have seen many movies.
Oh, we've seen this story hundreds of times in movies, just a different device. I mean, it's not a hand.
Yes.
It gives that a little bit of a unique feel, a unique prop anyway.
That's a good point. We have seen this plot and we have seen this story before. The thing that I'll go into a positive light as we start to tell, a little bit about how the story goes. That's what we do on this channel. If you guys watch later, spoiler alert, we're going to talk about the movie, but I like the idea that the conduit was something, there's something sentimental about a handshake. There's something, what's the word? Kind of intimate about it. So seeing that into the world. And then I love my favorite part of the movie is you're strapped to a chair, almost like if you were an electric chair, but obviously your hands are free. They make sure you can't go away, can't run away. I love that there's an audience, like you are on a stage playing a concert or you're a comedian playing a comedy show, and you can see someone directly across from you like I'm looking at you now and no one else can. And I think to your point earlier where they see the fear on someone's face of, oh, they are experiencing something and they're 6 feet away. That was very cool for me. I haven't seen that a lot where it was almost like the fourth wall in dimension, right? In a lot of movies, these guys are experiencing the characters in a story. They're this far away and they're doing it, but you're watching them watch people with their phone out, very 2023-esque. And I was like, I like the way that they blended that in together because that is exactly how it would happen if this were a real thing in this point in time, especially with teenagers. There's no doubt.
Another kind of issue I had with this movie was that it took a while to get going.
Yes.
To where the kids were actually like sitting around with the hand.
Mm-hmm.
But yet that time spent before it, I didn't feel spent enough worthwhile time developing the characters to make you care about them. Again, it was a group of kids that I really didn't care about.
Right. You had your typical tropes. Some of the bad guy characters, one being a lead female, another bigger, older guy. And then you have the characters you want to care about who are sweet, the young boy and his sister.
Now, don't get confused. By me saying that I didn't care for the characters, that doesn't mean that I didn't care for the acting because a lot of the acting was quite good.
Very good. And we've talked about that on your channel here many times. Sometimes the plot and the cast just doesn't match good writing. We can see the good writing in the directing and the filming. And the other times like this, it's the opposite. I think these kids acted their asses off and they did a great job.
The little boy and his sister, I believe it is, were very good.
Yes, and I've got the cast here. I want to make sure I get their names correct here. Joe Bird played Riley, and God, he can't be more than 12, 13, or 14. He was amazing. And then I'm looking for, and they don't have her photo up. I don't remember the sister's name.
I guess for this movie, they had an opportunity to cast a semi-famous Australian actress for the lead, and they declined on it.
Okay.
Because they felt better with one of the people that did in testing, and for that reason, they felt like that movie lost out on a lot of movie theater attention because it didn't have any star power really. It was mostly a lot of unknowns that were cast, and honestly, I felt like the cast didn't have any detraction at all from this movie. The fact that there was nobody in the movie that I was familiar with didn't hurt it one bit.
That's a good point because when you do a franchise like Scream, we reviewed Scream last year or earlier this year, whenever. You guys check it out on Adam's channel here if you're watching later. But when you take something like that and you introduce new characters like they did in Scream 5 and Scream 6, they're going to get catapulted into fame, whether it be good fame or bad fame, because of the backstory and the franchise. What's cool about what you said, and I totally agree with the cast, is they all did their job. Kind of like hired mercenaries or contractors. Like, I hope that these people who come and renovate my bathroom are good. They came in and did a great job. It just sucks because the movie hype was so big, like you said, and it didn't elevate to the hype. But as far as performance goes, I was very into, and I'm glad we agree on that. And that's one of the notes I have on my phone here is The acting in this was not the issue.
Right.
And I'm glad that you said that. And I'm sorry to walk it back. Joe Bird plays Riley, the young boy in the movie who ends up being a victim. And he, especially in the second half of the movie, he's a big part of the play. And the Alexandra Jensen, she plays Jade. She's the sister. Two mainstays and pivotal characters in this movie. You're going to see a lot of them when you watch them. But back to your point earlier, man, you said it had a long buildup. I'll tell you what sucks in a horror movie. When you get a first 5 minutes there where somebody gets killed and there's a lot of craziness and chaos, and then it's just dead for half an hour. That's exactly what this movie did. And that's the part where I got really I fast forwarded a little bit, man. I don't do more than maybe 10 to 15 seconds at a time, but I can kind of get into it now where I've watched so many movies. You've watched 10 times as many as I have. I guessed what was going to happen in this movie. And I didn't even want to do that to myself. Yeah. I just wanted to watch. But I was like, okay, we can get past this part here. I want to get to the meat and potatoes, the stuff that scares me, the intense scenes. And it took a little bit to start, but I will give them a C+, B- effort for attempting to put in the sentimental, emotional parts of this movie. Of the main actress here is Sophie Wilde, excuse me. She's great. She does a great job in all facets of being possessed, being happy, being sad, being angry. I love and wanted to invest in her emotional commitment to losing her mother and being kind of on every plane. She had a lot of tasks on her plate in this role. She was the person who was hated for a moment. She was the person who was admired. You felt sad for her. You felt angry for her. I know I mentioned before, angry at her.
But that was part of her character I didn't really understand is, okay, I get that she had the guilt for what happened to the boy, and she was seeing who she thought was her mom. But how did this all translate into her having these weird visions that she was participating in? I mean, where did that happen?
You know what I think it is, Adam, and I'm glad you brought this up because there's a way I wanted to segue into this, but I kept saying before we got started, I looked at my notes for about 3 minutes. I don't know how, but you just did it organically for me. I think you can see in a lot of these movies with possession, they always pick on a weaker character. I mean, The Conjuring is absolutely one of my top 5 favorite horror movies. The mom in that movie gets possessed, and they say in the movie, the demonic experts that come in, they say they will latch on to the weakest person and they will take over. And it kind of goes to this. Toes? What's that?
And make them suck toes?
That was weird. That was a very weird part of the movie. But I think that she, to your
or
point,
make out with the dog. I mean, what is
so out there, so out there. That happens. It's weird. This movie gets very weird, guys. But I think that it shows. And the thing that I guess I answered your question for myself while watching this movie, because I had the same question. I was like, okay, are these demons and this formula, is it really a 90-second cutoff to the half second? No. What are we doing here? Because, her.
And how was this evil demon able to replicate her mom so well and believable to make her believe that it was her mom?
Well, that's the part that
another one that was really tough.
That's the one where I was trying to fumble this out. I just kept having word vomit, and there was no meat and potatoes to what I'm trying to say is I think she had a weak mind. I think she was very impressionable negatively, probably on a suicidal scale of some, and very, very depressed. And she wanted to believe, after getting a glimpse, for not getting the closure for her mother's death for so long. And when let's put this angle in it too, which I thought was a good part of the story. When you lose a parent, and I guess in that time frame, like I'm lucky to have had my mother for 30 some years. If I lost my mom when I was 15 or 16, I would have been a wreck. But then if you're mad at the only other parent that you have and you guys are bickering, I think you can really be vulnerable and impressionable and even heightened on that suicidal depression scale, which is what I think. I think that's the answer to what your question is. My long-winded response is, I think that's why. I'm not saying I agree or disagree. Because maybe it could have been spun another way. I do. I think that's what it was. I think that it's her way of saying, okay, because you got to think, like in the movie, you see these guys, they take over and they kind of, the spirits get to say whatever they want to say and kind of have a little moment again being alive. But you also see with the young boy in the hospital, they're taking over this person. They want to bring him down with. they're preying on this girl is essentially what I'm saying. And they say, oh, this is a person we can manipulate.
So
which isn't
again,
it's a stereotype.
What was the motivation of the evil spirit? I mean, were they trying to kill the boy to bring
I
him
think
in?
that's
Because
the
if that
thing.
was their goal, I mean, they were bad at it.
Yeah, they took a while and they didn't succeed. That's right. I don't know, man. I guess that one's left unsaid. I don't know if they feed on these people, like like in the traditional biblical sense. When you go to hell, you just get tortured forever, and they'll feast on your body and blah blah blah, whatever else. I don't know. That was never really answered. That's the part that's going to leave.
I have with the spiritual possession horror movies is that I guess I just don't understand a lot of what's happening.
The only way that I can explain it, and please don't think that I'm mansplaining this to you because you know this answer, but I don't want to say it in a way that sounds stupid. But I just think whenever I watch a demonic or a spiritual or possession horror movie, the demon in the movie, the aggressor, the scary villain in the movie, they're in an in-between, because obviously demons don't walk the earth. We have no proof of this, physical, tangible proof. But in these universes we create in films, they're in an in-between most of the time. You summon them through a mannequin.
Okay, so these spirits are, wandering the earth or whatever, and waiting for these windows to open up. So these aren't spirits that went to heaven or hell. So are we to believe that this moderately, good and bad spirit is that vindictive and looking to do harm to humans? What? Why?
That's the point where I make justifications for myself, and I could be dead wrong, but I hope that there's somebody out there who thinks the same way I do. Is they're stuck in between, because the ultimate closure you're going to get if you're a spiritual person and you believe in religion is you're going to go to a very happy or a very bad place. These spirits are stuck forever in the in between, and I guess that's the motivation of why they would be so tortured, is they'll never have the closure. Or in this movie,
and they just want to share that pain, or
I guess they want to take it out on someone. And that's a guess that I have. I don't know that that's the answer of the writers. But the other part of it too, we saw in this movie, Adam, was we see the young boy being held kind of hostage, and he's literally down what looks to be in like hell with a bunch of disgusting looking versions of humans, kind of zombie-esque, and they're torturing him and hurting him, his body in a physical form, but mentally, because his body's not really awake.
Again, I don't understand the motivation there.
That's the part that I have the biggest question on, and I would love to
hear. Because when she went to go see him in the hospital, and she was going to kill him to release the demon. I mean, what?
So let's talk about the sequence of events a little bit, and then we'll get back to this and remind me for basically where we're at. We're close to the ending we're talking about, but movie starts off with a little craziness and moving around. The cool filming. It was a one-pan follow a person shot. Someone's brother ends up killing them in front of everyone at a house party, which is insane. He's been possessed. It dies off a little bit. You get introduced to the main characters. And that was just a kind of a reasoning point to start the movie of why or how this happened, which I didn't really think was good or bad. You get to learn about the characters. There's, I believe her name is Mia in the movie. Sophie Wilde. Yes, the main character, Mia. She has lost her mother. Her dad is still alive. They're bickering, and they've had mistrust since her mother's death. She attaches herself to a family. A friend of hers, a young girl her age. She has a younger brother and a single mother. The single mother was such a bitch in this movie, and I loved it, every part of it. She played that role fantastically and made me feel things about a character that's not real and I'll never meet. So shout out to her. Her name is Miranda Otto. She played Sue. She did excellent here for casting. But basically, not to drag out the length of the movie, they go to a party. There's some kids there that are older. They want to impress them. The older kids, typical like 90s movie kind of shit where they say, you're not cool because you're younger than us and you don't smoke and you don't drink. We don't know if you want you here. So they try to look cool in front of older kids by saying, hey, we'll do this game. And this
kind of weak love triangle.
Yeah, that was kind of weird too. I think they overly pushed that, which was kind of weird. But yeah, it was basically like, hey, we're at a party. We want to impress the older kids and make them accept us. We're going to play this spiritual demon game that we've heard about. We didn't think was real. Everyone said, oh, this is bullshit. Everybody's faking. Mia ends up going on the ride that night, and she cannot believe the things that she felt. Her family that I mentioned is there. They talk some more. They want to go again. They find a new location inside of her friend's homes, which is bananas why you would bring that to your house. But then Mia goes on a ride again. Her friend's younger brother ends up going to the hospital because he's almost dead. Demon takes over and physically injures him. That's when the movie gets really weird. Right before that as well, one of the love triangle characters you said gets possessed, and their demon likes to make out with dogs and hump the ground, which was weird.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, that was really weird. I don't know, and I guess the biggest question now, because I'm explaining the plot, is I want to go back to your question and have an answer too, is what happened with Mia other than they're preying on her? What specific event unlocked her to keep seeing these visions? Because it happened to no one else.
Because she didn't touch the hand until she was trying to save the boy.
Correct.
Just for some reason she thought, all this bad stuff is happening because people are holding the hand. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to hold the hand and reverse it?
I guess that's it. There was not really explanation for that. And that's the cool thing about movies. It's just like songwriting, man. I'm a songwriter. You want to make something that you love, but also appeals to everyone and not a commercial, distributed, formulaic way. And that's another thing for movies. I don't need you to look at the camera like we're in the office and say, and this is where the villain kills the blah, blah, blah. I don't need that. Subtlety is great, but I don't have the answer here. And I want to know, like, you don't have to hand me the answer, but kind of hint at it.
Because as I was watching this movie, I had so many questions
that
I wish I could have asked somebody to understand and enjoy the film a little bit more.
Yes, and that's the biggest negative that I'll take away from this. I have questions and I want them answered. For me, the place where I kind of lost, and it came back because the events were scary leading up to the ending. I understand that in this tragic event happens where your friend's younger brother, and it's your fault. It's definitely her fault. She let him do it when the sister and the love interest left.
And she definitely let it go way too long.
Let it go way too long. You shouldn't have let the kid do it regardless. But kid gets hurt under her care, under her watch, and under pretty much her authorization to do it, which is crazy. But then she, tells the boyfriend of her best friend, "Hey, I don't want to be alone," which I thought was so ironic and cheesy. I'm like, of course you don't want to be alone. He's going to stay. Why you mentioned earlier, why a demon took her over and was sucking her toes, but she sees it from the third person point of view.
It was really weird.
I don't understand. I want it to be cool because I've never seen something kind of like that, but it was never answered and there wasn't an explanation. So that left me a little underwhelmed because I was like, but why and how? Give me the why and the how, and maybe I can get on board with you, but I wasn't afforded that opportunity. More of this goes along as I wrap up the plot for you guys. She
kind of makes me wish they would have had a book with the hands the kids could have read from and given us something to go with here. And
I hope that in the next time when we watch the second movie, I hope they give a background on where it came from. It's just 700 years old. It came from an ancient tribe in this place, or there were sacrifices in this part of the world, blah, blah, blah. Give me something, because I don't know just how an inanimate object gets possessed. You know what I mean? Why was it a hand and not a lamp?
And while we're talking about the hand, what is the weight distribution on that hand? Because it did not look like it would be standing on its own without some weird weight distribution.
So it's funny you mentioned that. You guys can see my tag down here, NC Dog Dude. I'm a dog handler. We've had some stuff where we had to make concrete bowls because these dogs are too smart. They'll flip the bowl over and use it as a toy. Dude, you're right. As we take stuff literally and try to make fun of certain elements of things here, that thing's got to be concrete weighted at the bottom with
it's got to
steel.
Be.
I'll let you talk for a second. I hear a fire truck now. In my new location I'm in the middle of the city. So
yeah, there's a lot in this movie that really made me question not only the reality aspect of it, but a little bit as to why the story was going in that direction. And I get that it took him a little while to change the focus away from the little boy and his sister and change it on to the woman that was a girl that was being haunted, I guess, by the evil spirit that was pretending to be her mother. But that transition, that handoff, it wasn't very clean.
That's exactly where I think you and I both agree. And I'm glad, like, for the times we've liked movies and disagreed on them, I'm glad that we came to the same conclusion, even though we come from two different parts of the horror community of like, I plant my flag here and you plant your flag across the street in this house. I agree. I want the explanation here. The biggest gripe I have with this movie is that explanation of how and why this was transferred to one person. Why didn't it, if anything, why wouldn't it transfer to the weaker, younger brother who they were trying to kill?
Right,
That
you
would
think
be,
he would
that
have
would
been
be
the easiest
easier.
one to absolutely
Yes.
take over.
Absolutely. You know, I want that explanation, and hopefully we can get some of that in the next one. You know, I'll watch it, but I really want to get that explained. But, you know, to round out what happened at the end of the movie, it was crazy. You see her mother. Obviously, it's like a possessed demonic.
Was it crazy, though?
I didn't like it because it was almost too clean, where it almost felt real. Because, you know, think about the first person she saw, Adam. She saw a person that was, I think it was either an older man or a lady that was a little overweight, and she had like blisters and she had drowned. You see all these defects, and you're like, okay, you had a horrible accident. Her mother's eye color was very like pasty and stale, almost like a hazy, smoky color. And then everything was super dark and blue lighted as far as the lighting around. I was like, it was creepy for me. I didn't like that very much.
What did you think about when she was seeing the little girl?
Oh, yeah, that was. Thank God they were in a lighter, like a white room with something. If that was one of those, that's the stuff that I don't. And I call me a basic bitch. I'm the pumpkin spice white girl of this channel for this. I don't fuck with the women in white dresses and little girls in white dresses. And if you're in a white outfit or a dress and it's a little girl or a woman, I am out. That scares the shit out of me. I don't like it.
But when we kind of boil this whole thing down, we look and we see a movie that's it's a bit cliche. The body count is a bit low.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the scenes are just there for shock factor. I mean, on the surface, it's a movie that really should be a lot less enjoyable than it actually was. But the great acting from the cast really helped pull it through.
It drove it home. You're correct. I kind of like we talk about the endings in most of our reviews. I kind of want to leave this up for everyone that's going to see the ending because I thought the ending was interesting. And it's one of the few times in any movie, regardless of genre, that I actually got it right. When I said what was going to happen, I was like, oh my God.
I think this ending was quite predictable.
Yeah, I'm glad that I finally got one right, you know? Just for me, because I've been swinging in some L's in some of these guesses.
Now, the end of the movie does leave it, the very, very end does leave it open to some sort of interpretation, which we probably should discuss.
Sure.
Because at the very end of the movie, the main character girl who passed away, she was on the other side of the talk to me hand, which makes you wonder, you know, okay, so if she's there, does she have a connection to one of these other people at this house party that she's trying to, you know, talk to, or is she an evil spirit now trying to cast some stuff? I mean, we're not sure because we know that her time on Earth was very, very chaotic. So she might not traumatic. Be a very good, you know, lawful good spirit.
Here's the thing, Adam. I think the thing that, and it's good and bad to leave so much interpretation up to the mind of the people who watch this film. Much like on Earth now with human beings, there are very good and very bad people, very entitled, very troubled people. I feel bad for Mia, the character in this movie, because she went through such a crazy experience. I think she was preyed upon in this movie by evil spirits, and she ultimately came into their world. I don't think that she's a bad person or an evil person in this. Now, I think, which would lead me to be more interested in the story, is seeing someone who doesn't necessarily have rooted evil intention in that realm, because the transition was really cool for me, even though it was predictable. In the hospital where you see her dad and everything gets dark and you're like, she's in the afterworld or whatever you want to call it now. And she realizes, oh shit, I'm here. And I love. It kind of gave me that nostalgic feeling from Nickelodeon back in the day from Are You Afraid of the Dark? I love at the very end, everything goes black. She's got confusion. She has panic. She's like, oh my God. I think she's finally realizing she's in the afterworld of whatever this is. She's on the other side of it, as you said. And then you see a match about 30 feet away get lit, and she walks towards it. And you realize, oh my God, she's there. I thought that was really cool, the visual of that, because it could have been many, many things, but it was simple enough where it's like, oh, okay, now it's the opposite and the flip side. We got to
So
see the
is the
reality
little
of it
boy
here.
still possessed and dying?
Well, for me, I said no because she saw all these people, like, right before the lights went black in the hospital. And
You think the spirit just got what they wanted and left then, or that they went down or whatever,
this is what I took from it. She saw it. I don't know if it was just a vision. She did not push the boy. She ended up sacrificing herself,
Right.
which was great. I think that the demons or whatever, the spirits, I think they wanted a body. And they were content on trying to take the boy, but when she offered herself, they said, cool, we'll take you. And in her vision, if you remember at the end, she's in the hospital, and I get their names again. Sue, Jade, and Riley are all together. Riley's great, and they're about to leave. They're packing his bag. And I think she saw her mother and her father again. So I'm assuming that because she sacrificed herself at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, she's now in the afterworld, and he's fine. They needed that release of a demon or whatever weird thing where she's in the world, but they're not, but she can see them.
Up until
it's
when
weird.
she jumped, when she was looking at the boy, she could see the evil spirit within him.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that was enough to just draw that spirit out, maybe?
I guess. That was my assumption.
But yeah, that little boy, man.
He got the short end of the stick in this movie.
Now, I know I've said it before on this channel, but I cringe from eye stuff. Anytime things happen to eyes, and this movie has a kind of brutal eye scene as well.
Let's talk about that. We always talk about it in our movies, man. It's pretty crazy. The gore in this movie isn't out of this world. I mean, this isn't like a Texas Chainsaw.
And it's not super often either, but when it does happen, it's intense and it's unexpected. It happens to people you don't want to see it happen to.
Yes. Much like with, I was saying music. If you go to a show to see Gwar, Gwar, you're going to get fake blood sprayed on you.
Oh, yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. I know when we watched and we reviewed the most recent Texas Chainsaw, the thing that drew me in from the trailer was, oh, these idiots are on a bus and there's only one way out. Everyone is dying on this bus by a chainsaw. I know what I'm going to get there, so I mentally can prepare for it. Like, when we learned about what Hostel and Saw were.
Right.
These are kind of torture porn, gory movies. That's not in this movie. So when you do something, I guess when it comes down to those movies,
but you
compared
do
to
get
this
small
one,
doses of it, even though it's not a large percentage of the movie. It does have
it's more realistic
gore factor.
It's more realistic. I think that's why it bothers you and me, because I guess to round my point out from before was, when I see those movies that we mentioned, Texas Chainsaw, they're going to use an instrument. There's going to be a lot of blood. There's going to be casualty. This is stuff that you can do with your bare hands with a lot of force. The eye thing was crazy. The sister sacrificing her hand. Oh, it made my gut wrench because I know that pain. I've broken fingers. I've broken hands. And I don't want to experience that pain again. And I was like, oh my God. Slamming your head on a desk 10 times. That is brutal. And
while we're talking about, taking over people that are weak, that sister, I mean, when she sees her brother just absolutely broken down, and then, finding out her boyfriend was not loyal and didn't even really care for her that much. I mean, she was at an all-time low. You'd think she would be a good vessel to take over too. And it just was awkward that, that wasn't really something that happened.
I thought it was, and the boyfriend, the love interest. I'm gonna see if they got a photo of him, because I felt so bad for that kid. He got the shit into the deal. First of all, everyone exposed. The demon exposed him in front of everyone. It's like,
oh yeah,
he doesn't like you. He doesn't like it when you touch him. And it's like, oh no, you're throwing out his secrets. Then he has to make out with a dog, and then the girl that you used to have a thing with but don't anymore, but you guys still kind of flirt, she's sucking on your feet. He got a pretty raw end of the deal in this movie too. I mean, he got to be alive and he didn't ultimately get possessed, but yeah, he got embarrassed pretty good. So yeah, some of these people in this movie go through it. They go through the ringer of emotions.
Yeah, I think we're talking about different people. You're talking about the boyfriend that got scissored, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, we are talking about different characters then.
Oh, who are you talking about? I'm sorry.
The one that the boy's sister was seeing at the very beginning. The one
Oh, I
that the
thought
little
that was.
brother was like, you just want to suck his dick,
Oh, I thought that was the same kid, the guy
It's
that kissed
not.
the dog.
No. Well, yeah, that was Dog Kisser, but not the scissored boyfriend.
Oh, I don't remember this character. Oh wow, no, no. I wasn't talking about. We're talking about the same one. I'm not sure of the character you're talking about here. I'm sorry about that. Man, I hope
No
this isn't
worries.
one that I skipped over. Oh, you're talking about are you talking about the guy in the beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's. Sorry about that, guys. This is my error. Let's go back over that. What are we talking about with him now that I know who we're talking about here?
Well, he was one of the first ones to grab the hand, and
Mm-hmm.
it was really a way to explore that you can't hide anything from these spirits. They know it all.
Yeah.
And
What?
that was the intro kind of to what you were going to get with this possession is that they can go into your mind and take your deepest darkest secrets and use them against you.
Correct. Yeah, we're talking about the main. You'll see this guy when you watch this movie at the very beginning of the movie, doing that cool one person follow and pan shot that I was talking about. Yeah, I couldn't get invested much in this person. I understood like the typical tropes back in the 90s and the 80s. You usually have a nerd, a virgin, same character, a jock, a hot girl. This is the angry guy, and he has every reason to be angry. I'm not disputing that in the plot, but there's not enough of him for me to be invested in him, other than the fact that he was attacked, and I guess his brother is obviously not with them anymore. So very upset. I did understand, and he made a good point that most people in real life would say, the guy that comes to you that now has possession of the hand, ultimately your brother, I think that was his brother that died from this thing. He finally said on the bus, he's like, "You're going to stop fucking people's life up?"
Right.
I mean, there's no reality in this time and age if you're that angry about it that you don't do something about that and expose it at least. Maybe go and take revenge yourself. But yeah, that character you're talking about, man, I couldn't get invested too because there wasn't a lot of scenes with him. I understand
so
the
if that
dynamic.
happens to you, how do you bring yourself mentally to be like, okay, I'm just going to sell this to a bunch of kids?
Yeah, that's a great question. What the hell, man? And when I think
move,
about
dude.
it was a dick move. And when I think about like The Conjuring, right? We're talking about Annabelle and getting things possessed into an item. I would throw that into the nearest campfire immediately and not think twice about it. Or if they say, "Oh, you can't do that, you release a spirit," I've got you. I'll do you one better. I'm going to put this hand in a leather, super thick bag with a bowling ball, and I'm going to chuck it in the river, and it's never going to see the light of day again. At least it won't be my problem anymore. But to give it to a bunch of kids, that was a very douche thing to do. Oh, it's funny. Good point.
Yeah, there was a lot in this movie that just kind of made me scratch my head a bit and be like, what? Why? But overall, when I was done watching the movie, I was glad I checked it out because I know that it's going to be one of the more talked about movies of the year. And
I certainly hope so.
Didn't really want to miss out on it.
I certainly hope so for us and your channel to get some eyeballs on this, man. I love getting to talk about the stuff that's mainstream enough that's worth our time. There's some things that are going to come out that are super popular. I'm going to have no interest in talking about, and if I watch it, I watch it, but I certainly don't want to review it. But to your point, to start the show, man, this thing had a lot of hype, and this is a good transition to kind of end out the episode, but I don't think that it lived up to either one of our expectations. Now, like I said before, for me, I didn't have much expectation at all because this had been in the cupboard so long in my memory bank that I forgot about it pretty much. And then I realized it was out in theaters, although I can't go see it with my child. I was like, "Oh, I'll just watch this at home." The negative point is the questions and the explanations I did not get. Adam, I think you would agree. There are going to be some things, if you use a little bit of logic, but use a little bit of horror movie kind of finesse and suave,
Again, extremely low body count. So if you're expecting a lot of dead bodies, you're not going to get that.
Yeah, there's that too. Just can't be. I'm okay with low body counts in a horror movie, but don't give me one to start and then give me a 30-minute gap between them. God, I hate that. So, yeah, who are you? You're not Scream. You can't do this. Anyways, I just want to throw that out there. That's a negative point for me is the why and the how not really getting explained. Maybe it'll show in the sequel, like I've mentioned. The positive, I think both you and I would say, is the acting. The actors in this movie did their job. I hope to see them in more things. I hope to see them in things that aren't like this, to see how wide of a range of a character they can do. But overall, yeah, this movie's a bit of a letdown. Is it terrible? Not at all. We've watched way worse, including on this channel.
Now,
But
if you like, spiritual possession movies, it's definitely worth checking out.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't deter someone from watching this. They're like, we're going to watch Talk to Me tonight. And be like, okay, well, tell me what you think. I wouldn't say, well, lower your expectations a little bit because I watched it and didn't care for it. I wouldn't be like that.
That's a good point. Thinking about it, will we recommend this to people? Yes, I would recommend it.
I also think that A24 is on a little bit of a hot streak when it comes to movies.
Sure.
Talk to Me was kind of feeding off that and trying to capture more hype and build more for that brand. And now they're using Talk to Me's relative success to build for Maxine when that comes out.
Yeah, and the other part of this too, Adam, we talked about it many times now, and I'm mentioning it again, but do I think that this would get more notoriety if they had one or two more famous actors? Yes, I think that this would have been publicized way more. But the charm of this movie and the positive is I've never seen any of these kids ever in my life. Maybe Alexandra Jensen. She reminds me
of... This could launch quite a few careers.
Definitely.
Especially in horror.
Definitely.
Because let's be honest, we like her, but I'm getting a little tired of seeing Mia Goth.
Yeah.
She is in so many. I actually put a movie on Hulu the other day, a horror movie, and I was like, okay, I'm going to check this one out. And there she was.
Yep. And it's crazy, like in the superstar actor and actress world, you have one or two of those moments where they get to find, like I think of like Leonardo DiCaprio. I think about him being the young, pretty boy, and he was a great actor, and he was in wonderful films. Everything was perfect. Kind of like for our football podcast. Patrick Mahomes joins the Chiefs, and everything is perfect.
Right.
Everything's going to be elevated, right? So for Leo, I think about that. But later in his career, I see him do Django, which that's a tough role to play.
Right.
He's in The Revenant, which is definitely a difficult role. And then The Wolf of Wall Street. Completely three different places. And that's to drive your Mia Goth point home. I hope that that's not what she lives in forever, because I want to see her in other things. But coming back to my point about not knowing these actors and actresses, I think if there's one major positive, you're not going to be disappointed. These aren't going to be guys and girls that don't know how to act. They do a damn good job in this movie. So that would be my selling point on it. Maybe I'm being a little more harsh than usual.
They're both very good.
What's that?
The casting and the execution by the actors were both very good.
Yeah, very, very good. I wish that the plot had a little more answers for me for my questions that I have.
I came away wanting a little bit more meat from the story, but I wasn't satisfied. I was still a bit hungry for some horror, but it was a nice little appetizer, little snack.
That's a good way to put it, Adam. This isn't going to be like a heavyweight fight in the horror genre, but this is a good one on an afternoon when you need to do something. Like we said, we're not going to be like, don't watch this movie, it sucks. A little underwhelming for my taste, and this is my lane. But
we're talking about the sequel to this movie. Do you think this could potentially be a long-running franchise?
Dear God, Adam, I hope not. I hope not, because what's going to happen with this movie? You could have one wrap-up question, and there could be two. There could, in the horror movie element and all the films that we do, like you have the franchises, the Friday the 13th and the Halloweens and stuff. This is not something I find any weight and substance to do that many films. If you want to do a sequel, just to have a sequel, and maybe you
The Conjuring did it.
Yeah, but I like The Conjuring a lot more than I liked it here. And you know what? I understand why there are elements that are going to make it more appealing, but they answered some of my questions in that movie that I really like.
Yeah.
I'm walking away with this, and I'm like, how? I'm with you on this. I'm so glad you guys have to know on this channel too. Adam and I don't talk about this before. This is all off the cusp,
Right.
in the moment. We are dead set on why did this happen and how is this possible? Give me the meaning and the story behind X or Y. So I hope they don't do a whole series. If they want to do a sequel, I'm going to watch the sequel. Past that, unless it blows me away. And I'm telling you right now, the sequel has to be better than this one for me to go further. I hope not. Man, I didn't even think about it being a series. Oh, God, I hope not.
Now, we don't know the next time we're going to get together to talk about a horror movie, but there are some opportunities on the horizon.
Yeah.
Paramount Plus is having Pet Sematary 2 here, I believe, very soon.
Oh, I think that's a new one, right?
Yeah.
That one I will watch. I did see a preview for that.
So, I mean, there are some options coming up, and if you guys like what you're seeing, let us know. If you have some ideas as to what you'd like to have us talk about in the future, let us know. Or even like format changes to the show, things you'd like included, let us know. We're open to a lot of suggestions. Right now, we're just talking about movies that have a runtime of like 90 minutes, and we end up talking about them for 50 minutes or so.
Half of that time we're talking about them. Yeah, I'm definitely down for the new Pet Sematary, and I'll take a look at what's being released in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Because we are entering spooky season.
Exactly what I was going to say. We're at that time of year, man. It's getting cooler in the morning where I am. I know for you, it's going to start getting cold where you're at. But I'm excited, man. This is a fun time of year, and for many reasons. But the little kid
not too soon yet. It was 84 here today.
Oh wow, nice. Yeah, it started doing that drop here in Virginia. I'm in Richmond now, and it's definitely doing the 60 to 65 in the morning. I can't wait to have an excuse to start wearing a sweater to work. I can't wait. I already do the long sleeve every day, but I don't know, something freeing and comforting about getting to wear that, especially if I'm at work. So,
but yeah, we don't have any live interaction in chat, so hopefully we can get some people in here to talk about these movies as we're talking about them, because that is what makes these conversations the best over on our football podcast.
Yeah, for sure. You guys can check us out there. We're if you're an NFL fan, we're both Minnesota Viking fans, and we have a show called the Purple People Podcast. We've been doing it for over a decade now. At least I've been on there for over a decade. Adam's been on there longer. Yeah, I guess we'll wrap it up, man. Traditionally, we give a rating before we leave and promote things. You want to give a rating on this movie and tell people? I think we all kind of already said it. We would suggest that you could give this a watch. It's not like you have to drop what you're doing right now.
Well, we kind of run on different rating scales. For me, like I run by the school kind of grading. I'll give this a 7.
Okay. So on the 1 to 10, 7 scale, or
sure.
1 to 10 scale, you give it a 7?
Yeah.
I'm in the same range. I would have said between like a 6.5 and 6.9. It's somewhere in there. Like it almost wants to be there. But it definitely, we've reviewed worse movies on this channel.
Oh yeah.
So if you're going to sit around with your friends and somebody brings this up, this isn't one of those where you slam your hand on the table and say absolutely not. No,
but Kyle and I will never steer away from a movie just because it's not an American movie. We've watched a lot of foreign horror here.
It's been fun, man. It's good for me, making me watch stuff that I normally wouldn't think to go in that avenue, which I've enjoyed the most about this channel.
I mean, this definitely wasn't the sadness.
Oh God. There's been so many. There's such a wide variety of stuff we've watched, man. Some of the things that fit the classics we both like, and some things where it's like I never would have thought to watch this movie. Happy though. But yeah, I'll promote our stuff, man. If you want to follow Adam, if you're on the channel now, this is his social media handles everywhere: TikTok, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter, YouTube. Come back and watch a movie review and help him, grow his channel. That's what we want. Yeah.
TikTok, Instagram, wherever you're at MN Viking Zombie. That's me.
That's Adam. If you want to see me for whatever reason, at NC Dog Dude. I am on Instagram the most, Twitter next, and then sometimes I'll check TikTok. I try to stay off that app because it just sucks me in like a freaking black hole. So you guys can follow us there on social media, but I'll let you end the show, man. This is fun. Let's do it again real soon.
We'll be back to talk about something. We're not sure what or when, but keep an eye out for us. You can hit that little bell to subscribe, and it'll let us know. We try to set it at least a few hours ahead of time, so you can kind of prepare and set yourself to be there if you want to be. But that's the plan. Thanks again to Kyle for joining me to talk about this, and in the meantime,